I'm Annabel Kaye from KoffeeKlatch, and today I am with Charlotte Wibberley of APVA. Now, Charlotte is an amazing coach of upcoming VAs, and many of the VAs in our KoffeeKlatch GDPR group for VAs are VIP membership members. So I will be interviewing Charlotte and a couple of other VA coaches as we go through our GDPR work to talk about what you're doing with your VAs in terms of advice about GDPR. So first of all, Charlotte, headline news, is GDPR a disaster? Should we all be panicking about it? Where are we as far as you're concerned?
Oh, it's interesting. I'm getting a lot of the panickers at the moment coming to me. So I think there's been so much around it that has been, I guess, scaremongering in my opinion. Some people making it seem overcomplicated. But actually, I think there's work to do, especially for us as VAs with the kind of clients we work with, but it needn't be this whole big terrifying thing that I think some people perceive it to be. I think if it's broken down into stages and you understand the crux of it, get some good support on board, then actually there's opportunity there.
One of the things I think that's really frightening VAs is that for the first time as data processors, as people handling their customers' data, VAs are in the firing lines for fines. And of course, we've seen these dreadful headlines. 4% of turnover, 20 million euros. I mean, I'd like to see someone find me 20 million euros because I haven't got 20 million euros. So I don't quite see how that would happen. I mean, they can try, but I can't see anybody getting 20 million euros out of me. If I had 20 million euros, I wouldn't be still working, would I? But really frightening thing for VAs. And I think one of the problems is a lot of VAs were not working to the current standards of the Data Protection Act. So while the regulators looked at it as a small change from Data Protection Act 1 to whatever GDPR is called when we finally pass the act, for people who weren't working on the old standard, it's a massive change, isn't it? And when you combine that with the new risk of being fined, you can understand a lot of VAs going into meltdown over this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if it's right, the ICO have said that when GDPR comes into force on the 25th of May, during the first year, what they're going to be doing is making sure that people are at least trying to comply rather than are necessarily compliant. So you won't, those that are worried that, you know, post 25th of May, that if they haven't got all of their ducks in a row, they're going to be fined immediately. That's really unlikely. In all likelihood, what they'll get from the ICO is advice about what they need to do to take things forward. So I think, again, that sort of hard date of the 25th of May is scaring a lot of people. But although I'm a great believer in being proactive around this, and I've been working with my VAs for the past at least 6 months since you and I did that first webinar, Annabel, to prepare them, I think seeing it as that hard deadline is probably a bit of a mistake. I think as long as you are taking some steps to make the changes necessary that you know about, that you can be doing right now to become compliant, and you are helping your clients out where you can as well, then that should be fine. That should be absolutely fine.
There seems to be this idea of GDPR as a deadline, whereas I'm trying to say to people, GDPR is a process. It's an attitude to data. It's a way of working. You will always be doing GDPR. Just as you always do credit control, just as you always do some form of sales and marketing, GDPR is just going to become part of what you do.
Yeah.
So you're not going to stop doing it on May 26th, nor are you going to go, well, I did it on May 25th, end of. I don't now need to do anything. People are getting a bit frazzled about it from that point of view. And it does take time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and to me, I was talking with Jason Cobain yesterday actually about insurance and how that can get more appropriately getting insurance in place to help with GDPR and cover some of the risks involved. And we were likening this whole GDPR thing to Y2K, when all of the IT companies said, oh, on the 1st of January, year 2000, all of your computers are going to stop working. So you need to get this in place, you need to do this, you need to do that. And of course, what happened on the 1st of January 2000, everything was absolutely fine and the world went on, and we just had to kind of adapt as time went over, rather than it being this huge thing on this day that's going to stop everything working.
But of course, one of the reasons it didn't stop everything working was lots of people like you and I did months of work in advance to make sure that didn't happen. It wasn't just spontaneous, was it?
No.
So turning to the big dilemmas of a VA working with a customer, right? The regulations say that we must contract for secure data processing.
Yes.
It's not just, oh, I'll do it all right. So you've obviously been working with us for a long time. How do you see that going forward in terms of your VAs being able to comply with that requirement?
So I think, obviously, as you know, Annabel, when I'm training my VAs, I've got both my membership through the organisation and obviously my trainees. All of my trainees going through that programme get access to your contracts with booking forms, and that particular documentation, as you know, just means that everything's in there, particularly with the work you're doing currently around making sure that actually not only in the contract is everything covered, but also in the new booking form, making sure that right at that onboarding stage, people are gaining the information that they need in terms of making sure that their client is GDPR compliant, or ascertaining where in that process their client is. And I think going forward, that gives a real opportunity for those VAs. So if they're getting that client coming to them where they're thinking, actually, you're not where you need to be, what's the opportunity for them there to then assist that client in either getting a few steps further forward in that GDPR journey, or, dare I say, recommending them to somebody that can help them become fully compliant?
Absolutely. So I think what we're going to see as we go through May 25th and beyond, and it's starting now, is a bit of a filter out. So we have clients of VAs who are trying to comply, where the VA and the client can sit down and fill in the onboarding form we've done that forms the data processing agreement and bolts it all into the contract, all in plain English, and go, look, do you need to let me into your MailChimp? If so, can you give me a log on of my own? Simple things like that, as well as dealing with the contracting. Then you've got clients who are not in the least bit compliant, have no idea about GDPR, because despite the fact that we've all worked so hard on it, I'm still seeing people going, what does that stand for?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What are we talking about? And I think we're going to have a year or so of that at the very least, because even if we could tell everybody in business about GDPR, new people are going into business every day. And when you start your business, the last thing on your list is data security, is it?
It's not sexy, is it, necessarily?
Not sexy, and it's not there, really. So there's always going to be the client who knows nothing about it. So what are you recommending that your VAs do with the client who knows not a lot about it? How should they approach this?
Oh, those clients. We've had a few of those in our members club particularly. And I mean, maybe your gut feel is to sort of run for the hills and go, no, I don't want to work with that client if they're not compliant, because obviously I could be fined. But my personal view is that look at the opportunity again. I think there's real opportunity if you've got your head around perhaps even just the basics of what you need to be doing for GDPR. How can you help that client to understand maybe again the basics of what they need to be doing, add value by educating them and maybe helping them move a little bit further along that GDPR journey. I know that there's some VAs in my group that have had huge success with having a GDPR almost like advisory product that they're selling to their clients now, both existing and new clients, to help them to move further along that GDPR timeline, if you like. So I think embrace the opportunity to help them move forward with it rather than run for the hills. Obviously, if you get those clients where there is just no helping them, my suggestion would be to refer them to like one of your groups, Annabel, where they can get the support that they need.
Yeah. So obviously, VAs advising clients on data protection is a weird mixture of admin, like this is how you can do it, and legal.
Yeah.
And VAs need to be very careful if you're making a business decision as a business model to become a GDPR advisor that you're adequately insured.
Of course.
Because if the client were to pick up a 20 million euro fine, they'll be selling your house for you in order to pay it, and that's not going to be nice.
Absolutely, and I think this is why, well, first of all, you know, all of my members come with appropriate professional indemnity insurance way before GDPR, but now we're working quite closely with Jason, who's coming up with a product that will be available to my members as a group that will make sure that they're covered for exactly those
right. So it's not something you don't wake up one day and go, I'll start advising my clients on GDPR. No. There's a little bit more than that that needs to go on. Now, we both know VAs who've done very well out of GDPR because they're offering the practical and administrative support, and they're quite positive about it. They've seen it as a business opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. So not everyone's sitting there going, oh, no, this shouldn't be happening to me. What about I mean, you've got customers who don't know, and obviously that's an education piece.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you thinking that the customers who don't know are maybe a little bit resistant? How is that going to be dealt with? Do you think your VA should be going, well, if you won't do it my way, then I'm not doing the project, you know? How should they respond to customers who are not really that sure the VA hasn't gone crazy, you know?
I think, yeah, and I can think of one example of this. But I think if you're getting that client who doesn't know anything about it and is firmly in the I don't want to know anything about it, just deal with it camp, I think you still have an opportunity and maybe an obligation, if they're an existing client, to try and help them. So yeah, you could avoid them, you could fire your client, you could move away from it, but you've got that relationship with them. So if you can find a way to help move them forward with it, to create some understanding and assist them if that's your bag and you've got you're appropriately covered to do so, then why wouldn't you try and do that first and try and get them as far forward down that journey as you can? And again,
would it be better to move them forward 10% or 20% during this advisory year, rather than to abandon ship and go, if you're not prepared to do all of it, I'm not working for you?
Well, definitely. As I said at the beginning of this, with the ICO saying that during the first year, they're only going to more advise than look to find people. If you can show you're doing something to move towards compliance, then you're going to get that advice. So if you can even move your client on 10% towards their compliance, then you're doing them a favour. You're helping them hugely to be on that road to compliance.
Mm. So some VAs are already experiencing some rather difficult conversations about GDPR. I mean, I don't blame them. I get people who tell me on Facebook it doesn't exist. No one would be so stupid. There's Brexit coming up, doesn't apply to us, even though it applies globally, whether you're in the EU or not. All these other things. It can be quite difficult for a VA to because the VA's job is to support, isn't it? It's not to control, you know.
It's not to control, it is to support, but I guess support means different things to different people. And I think there's the physical support in the doing the do, but also we have a real, I feel that as professional VAs, we have a real obligation to our clients to advise them as well. So they can take or leave our advice in the end, but we know about what's going on with GDPR because we're well informed through groups such as yours. But I think it's our obligation to help those clients to, even if they aren't doing anything about it, to understand why it impacts them.
And of course, it could impact the VA because when we get to the end of the advisory year, and it is possible that sooner or later some VAs could be fined for dodgy security on data processing. Now, nobody knows at the moment because they still haven't filled in the dots. If you're doing exactly what your customer said and that was wrong, whether that's your bad as well as their bad or who's doing it. But obviously the climate is changing there, isn't it? So yeah. I don't think the customers have really understood that. I think that they think, well, it's my business. And if I want to break every rule in the book, that's up to me. And to a degree, it might not be a lawful decision, but if I'm willing to risk everything I own in a massive fine, it is kind of my business. They don't totally understand, do they, that they can be putting the VA in that position as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a data processor, if you're working with somebody that's not compliant, then as a VA, you could also be liable for fines. So.
Yeah. So that's causing a new dynamic, isn't it, in the VA relationship? And I think of it as akin to bookkeeping, where if you hire a professional bookkeeper and they go, this is how you account for VAT. And I don't think I've ever tried it because I'm always very experimental. And I've gone, no, I don't want to do it that way. And they go, well, no, if you want to work with me, that's the way you do it.
Yes.
But if a VA says, if you want to work with me, this is the way you set up your MailChimp emails, at the moment, there's no kind of, oh, well, she's a professional, she knows what she's doing, I'll listen to her. It's like, no, I want to do it the way I've always done it. There's a lot of education to cover, isn't there, in terms of the VAs have been studying this, know what they're doing.
Yes.
But of course, there are VAs who have yet to hear of this, who have not been studying it, who've decided somehow it's nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
There are other VAs who've gone into all sorts of varieties of support and got so confused that although they believe they know about GDPR, they're kind of like the flat earthers of GDPR. They've got an idea that they've got hold of, and they think that's it, the one idea. And I don't blame them, because it has been massively undercommunicated, hasn't it?
I think it's been massively undercommunicated, but it's also been massively overcomplicated by some.
And overhyped, hasn't it? So you've had very little facts and an awful lot of buy my stuff and you'll be fine going on.
Exactly. And I think the important thing for VAs really is to, if they are one of those VAs that are sitting there thinking, I've not heard of GDPR, or I thought it didn't apply to me, is to firstly understand that it does apply to them, but secondly to look to get support to get themselves in the right place. Because I think although there's this huge opportunity with the clients, they need to make sure that they're doing the right things for their own business first. And we are all business owners as VAs. There's no kind of side hustles here, it's a business. So I think the VAs need to firstly understand why it applies to them and how they make sure that they themselves are compliant before they can think about then getting to a place where they're going to advise, educate, help their clients to ensure that they're also compliant. But yeah, it's just been massively overhyped.
So will you be burning the midnight oil between now and May 25th, or just taking a slow, steady journey in your business?
Personally, I've been taking it slow and steady, and for better or for worse, throughout the whole time, I've been in that don't worry about it, it's all going to be fine camp. So I think it would be unlike me now to suddenly go, oh my gosh, there's 2 weeks to go, I need to do all this stuff at once. But I'm taking my time to make sure that I'm getting everything right and making those small steps to ensure that I'm going to be compliant going forward.
So with the VAs you coach and in your groups, will you be having conversations with them about client handling as the new systems come online, as they need to explain to customers what they're doing? Will you be supporting your own coachees through this process?
Yeah, so we already in our members, in our membership group through the organisation, we have a number of sort of templates for talking to your clients about GDPR, explaining why it's applicable to them. We'll be doing more sort of webinars and updates as and when it actually comes into force and we're a bit clearer. I'm always recommending that all of my VA coachees and members join your VA group so that they can go through things step by step in a really simple way and in a supported way that's relevant to them as VAs. And of course, for my coachees at the moment, they've got the pre-GDPR in force information that they need to make sure that they are thinking about it right at the inception of their business. And then after that 25th of May deadline, when we know a bit more, I'll also be adding in more stuff for them to make sure that it's up to date and as relevant as it can be.
Perfect. And of course, in our KoffeeKlatch VA GDPR group, we've got the lovely Simona Fruman coming in to do a webinar in June about, we don't really want to call it having difficult conversations, but how to frame conversations when the client's a bit resistant, but you equally know that there's something you've got to say or do to kind of persuade them to act differently. And for those of you who've been chatting with the group, she's amazingly helpful, but Simona's not just a helpful person. She's a lawyer with a massive track record in mediation and alternative dispute resolution. So we're beginning to bring those skills into the kind of micro conversation so that you can begin to see how all that fits together with onboarding, with contracting and with compliance without doing your head in, really, because most of us don't think about all of that when we're just trying to get a client to change the way they use MailChimp.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be hugely helpful. Simona's been my accountability buddy, so I think,
and she is a very good accountability partner, isn't she?
She's really, really great. But I think that sort of focus on those difficult conversations will be really, really helpful for VAs, particularly with dealing with their often, quite
challenging customers. Yes.
Their clients are often know their own mind and believe that they know
Well, of course they do. We're entrepreneurs, right? We know everything. This is why we have to run our business our way. Otherwise, we'd be working for someone else. So what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, doesn't it? But sometimes we don't realise that we've moved out of the making a stronger zone into the kill zone because we're too busy going, I'm the boss, I can have it my way. And we forget that trying to tell that to the information commissioner or the taxman isn't always that effective.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I'd love to tell the revenue, I'm the boss, I don't owe you any money. But I've got a feeling it wouldn't work. And we're a bit like that with GDPR. You know, I'm the boss, doesn't apply to me. I'm sure it doesn't, can't possibly mean that I've got to change what I'm doing. It's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't deal with data.
Yeah, I love that one. But, you know, VAs have had all that. And we've been doing some great little videos about that just to keep us going on the journey, really, because there are times when you might go,
yeah.
You know, I'm thinking of doing a video about the data-free business. You know, you pick up the phone to the customer, go, who are you? And they go, I'm John, I bought from you last week. You go, do you really? We don't keep any customers. Did you?
It'd be impactful, that's for sure. I don't know a business that doesn't deal with data.
Well, but there are lots that say they don't know. And that's because we don't think of data in our business. We think of information. If you said to somebody, have you got any information in your business about anyone? They go, well, of course I have. Yeah. But if you say to them, well, what data do you collect? They go, none. Because, you know, you don't think of it as data.
No.
So looking forward to this rollout year, are you optimistic? Are you worried? How do you see it going down?
As I say, I'm quite optimistic. I'm not worried at all. I think we've got the support that we need. It's a matter of just working through it and making sure that you're taking it step by step rather than seeing this huge scary thing that needs to be achieved. And as I say, I just think there's this huge opportunity. I've already had people coming to me asking me if any of my VAs are, you know, experts in GDPR. Have they done it for their own businesses? Can they help?
Of course, now you can say, at least for those who are with us, and they've got GDPR compliant and ready contracts.
Absolutely.
And by the way, it's nearly killed me. It's why it took a while, but they are in English.
Yes.
I've had a major fight with my co-director, 38 pages of EU paragraphs, got it down to one form that runs over a page and a half, and there's lots of space to fill things in, you know, it's not a tiny little thing.
Absolutely. Well
forever. Because I said to him, if no one can understand it, no one can comply with it, this is my maxim. I do wish I could persuade the EU of that one.
Yeah, that would be more helpful.
But, you know, I don't run the EU.
I was going to say, you have to know your limitations.
I can't fit that in as a, what would that be, a side hustle?
Yeah, a side hustle, there you go. You don't have the time, no time. So no, I'm really optimistic. I think there's opportunity to be had there. And I think, you know, people should feel comforted that it's not going to be this big scary thing. For most people, it'll just be simple working through the steps, get the support on board, join a group, and make sure that you're getting there.
Brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to working with you and your members as this rolls out. Hopefully we're all going to be extremely relaxed.
Absolutely.
And lots of us are finding it very interesting, the opportunities it gives us. So thank you for joining me on the call, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for that, Annabel.
Bye.
Bye.